completely mad?
No, you're insane!
Hello, and welcome to The Madhouse, episode 85. I'm Ultimate Spy 53, the host of this podcast, and joining me for this week's episode I have...
Hi, I'm Chakky. I'm a weeb.
What's that even mean?
Weeaboo.
You're just weird. Okay.
What about weeaboobies?
I'm just curious. I guess it just means you're weird, I guess. I don't know.
Pretty much. Anyway,
Okay.
Continue.
I'm Steven, also known as Steve Kovoc and Chakky.
By the way, I'm bigdinoguy here, and I got my cat, and he is very soft and purring like crazy.
Aww.
Making stress.
So yeah, I think last week we had a Star Wars podcast just talking about, well, I told it the lore of Star Wars, but he wanted to do more of that, like talk further about it. More Star Wars, essentially. It's basically, this is, I guess, part 2, if you want to call it that, because Bigdinoguy wants to do more Star Wars, which I'm totally up for. I love Star Wars. But, and no, we're not going to talk about The Last Jedi yet. We're going to hold off on episode 8 until he's seen it, because he's still not seen it, and I thought he was going to see it, but he hasn't, so I totally understand that.
Next week.
Yeah, good. Okay. Awesome. So, I think the only thing I wanted to... I could just talk about, in general, of Star Wars. I mean, the first thing is the prequels, and why they deserve to be better, like, why everyone hates them, but also why they should exist. That why it's important for them to exist. And without the prequels, we wouldn't really have a lot of storytelling with Star Wars. You know, we wouldn't have all these characters introduced. We wouldn't even have Obi-Wan. Like, we wouldn't... He's an old man in episode 4, and then it's like, we don't get his origin story until we see the prequels, so... Yeah! You know, you gotta be okay with that, you know? You gotta accept that, I guess. So, anyway. Do you have anything to say about that?
So, one, about your whole thing with everyone.
Yeah.
We would still have them. I think that would actually have a little more mysterious factor. However, at the same time, he's one of the few characters that you need to know more about his backstory. If we didn't have the prequels and whatnot, I think a lot of his character would just be about some random dude in the desert. Okay, I like you. Yes, a little bit of a backstory. I don't give a shit. Let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that having all the lore and whatnot about his character at least, I think that actually really improved him. And I think that actually makes a little more of a depth to the character in the original one, because that way for someone like me, I grew up with both of them at the same time. I was, the Phantom Menace is a few years older than me, and then I was born around the same time that Clone Wars was, and then a few years later, I think, I actually saw episode 3 in the theater.
Me too. Yeah, I went to see that movie with my brother for his birthday. I think some of my friends might come along with us, but that was the first, because I think as far back as 2003 for Return of the King, when that movie came out, that was the earliest memory I have of going to the theater. Besides that, and I think I still have, let's see if I can, I think I have my episode 3 ticket still. Let me look for this. It's kind of crazy because it's so old, and so it looks ancient, but I still have it. I don't even know like who it belonged to, but I still have it somewhere. I think it's crazy about the whole, you know, that movie, why Revenge of the Sith, even though everyone thought it was terrible, it still deserves a lot more because it was my first Star Wars movie. Oh well, my first like theater Star Wars movie, because I don't remember seeing the movie in the theaters. I don't remember seeing the first 2 in the theaters, but I remember vivid memories of seeing episode 3 in theaters, and the last thing I remember was Darth Vader getting the helmet on. That was it. That's as far as I go for that, so not really much besides that, but still, it's a lot of fun. Here it is. So you can't really see it, but it is faded. It says Star Wars Episode 3, Woodville Cinemas, 10 o'clock, Saturday, May 21st, 2005, and Theater 6. That was, I remember that, so I totally remember seeing that movie, and I gotta say, I really loved it. Despite people saying about it, I loved it. It was fantastic. But I don't know, like it's that movie that made the saga complete. Without that movie or any of the other movies, I know it's like, oh well, Star Wars, the trilogy sucked. Like everybody, it's, you know, the acting, the script, the everything. It's like in the CGI, it's like everything is like, oh crap. It's like, no, actually, a lot of the movies it's really important to have these movies because they tell a story that never would have happened unless, you know, unless Mark Hamill hadn't suggested they make a trilogy about young Darth Vader. We wouldn't have gotten the prequels. And it's like, well, imagine a world without prequels. How would you be able to tell a story? How would you be able to tell a story of young Anakin? Like, you just wouldn't. It would just be Darth Vader. That would be it, and that would be not sucky, but it would just, I don't know. I just prefer the prequels because they're just amazing, and they also give an origin on C-3PO, R2-D2, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and a lot of characters that we see in the original trilogy that we don't really get a lot of information about who they really are in the originals. And that was really important. Like, for example, a really good example of this is during episode 4 when Obi-Wan is telling Luke about, you know, fought with his father in the Clone Wars, the best pilot. He is a good pilot in episode 3. He fought with him in the Clone Wars. Yes, that happened in the prequels. Good friend. Well, until you see that gif of him saying "I hate you" and he's saying "I'm a good friend." I think you see that right. It was a well, not really a gif, but like a meme, I guess, of basically, I think it was Obi-Wan episode 4 saying like, and he was a good friend, and then you have below that you have Anakin episode 3, the very end of that, saying "I hate you" after he dies, after like he gets burned out. So I that's all I can say about episode 3 is that it without it we wouldn't have gotten all this backstory that Obi-Wan tells Luke in episode 4. We wouldn't have gotten an answer to that. Like, we wouldn't have known what the Clone Wars was like. Besides maybe the animated show if they wouldn't have made that one. But still, really, it's helpful to have that. I mean, that's that's my opinion. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you have a different opinion, or?
Like I said beforehand, I think that it was really good that they expanded on his character as well.
Yeah.
However, at the same time, I hate to say it, but it doesn't really draw anything back from episode 4.
Yeah.
When you first see Obi-Wan in episode 4, because I first started with the original trilogy.
Yes.
And when they first see Obi-Wan, you're like, okay, so he's this guy, old man, he's got one hell of a history, he's a war veteran, most likely.
Yeah.
Some ancient order. You have no idea what the hell it is. But at the same time, you have enough info about the character for you to formulate opinions on him. You know who he is. You know kind of sort of where it comes from. The prequels just expand on that. It expands on the characters. It expands on their whole reasoning. So the prequels are extremely important to the story aspect.
Yes.
And I am not at all negating that they should. I'm not saying they should not have been made. They definitely should. And I'm glad that they were.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
all the faults that they have as in terms of pacing wise or animation wise or hell, even written wise. Oh god, some of the lines in there were just like, kill me now. But it doesn't draw back from.
She lost the will to live.
Well, that loss to the will to live, it actually kind of makes sense for the character, and it makes sense in a lot of lives.
Yeah.
The older that I get, and the different things with like suicide awareness I've worked with, and had experience with other friends and family and whatnot, it really has opened things out with. So that actually means a lot more to me now than it used to that whole line.
Yeah.
And I think that because their audience, arguably, it is a younger audience, but at the same time, there are older audiences. I think that it makes sense, but at the same time, it doesn't. But
right.
Anyway.
I more or less agree with you. I mean, there's some choppy dialogue in there, like the sand one. I was watching a YouTube poop about Star Wars, and it brought out the sand, I'm like, why does everyone hate that line? Like, why some of the lines in those movies, people just bash them. It's like, oh my god, this is awful dialogue. Like, I don't really understand. Like, I don't know what bad dialogue is really at all. Like, I watch a movie and I enjoy it. I don't care about the lines. I don't care about the one-liners. In fact, I like some of the lines anyway. But I don't really care. Like, I think the one example of a bad line is in Suicide Squad when one of the characters says, "This is Katana. Her sword traps the souls of her victims." That line was bad. I thought that was a pretty funny line. But in Star Wars' sake, I mean, that was just an example of bad dialogue. But in the trilogy, particularly with the prequels, it sets up a lot of lore, like the title of this podcast, Lore of Star Wars, Part 2 probably. it has a lot of lore. We get to know what the Jedi were like back then, because we knew, like, in episode 4, as far as we know, that Yoda and Obi-Wan were the last Jedi, and that was all we knew. And we didn't know like what the Jedi were like back then. And then again, episode 1, we get the archive, probably more like episode 2 and 3, but we get the archives, we get all these Jedi lore throughout the prequels. And without the prequels, we wouldn't have even known about what all this lore, really, really important Star Wars lore was. And that's why it's really important to have the prequels. That's why people hate them. But that's just what I think. I feel like it's important to have prequels because of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's just my opinion. I'm entitled to have an opinion, okay? People hate it. People can hate them all they want, but I don't really care. I love them. I mean, what is there anything else you have about that, or about the prequels?
No, not really. I think that there were a lot of flaws with the film series itself, and but at the same time, the expanded material that they have, like Star Wars: The Clone Wars and whatnot, I think that really enhances everything. I think.
Yeah.
Makes the story a lot better.
Definitely.
With WoW, especially episode 2. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it's really interesting because we get to know all these new characters that were never in the original trilogy. And actually, speaking of the original trilogy, I want to bring this up real quick because I found this really interesting because I was watching a theory. And this is actually before The Last Jedi came out, so it was like a theory about Rey's parents that was obviously, it probably isn't true. But, I mean, like, it's not really a spoiler because it's just like a theory. It's probably, theories are theories. They don't necessarily mean they're true. But, it was the idea that, that Leia and Han could be the father and mother of Rey, and that it kind of makes it, Rey is British and everything. But then there was this scene in episode 4 that really threw me off, and I didn't even, one of those things where you watch it and you never really think about it until you watch it again. And it was a scene in episode 4 where Leia is talking to Grand Moff Tarkin, and it's like the first 30 minutes of the movie talking to Grand Moff Tarkin, and she slips it into a British accent very, very briefly. I think the idea is to mock his accent, but she talks. I think she's like the more you threaten me, the more I think it's the more star systems will fall through will slip through your fingers, and that was a British accent. And I didn't even notice that she was actually. I mean, she's not British, but like I think she did that to mock him. But
I disagree with that.
Really.
I think that Rey could still be their parents, and it doesn't matter the accents, because we know that she was abandoned at a very,
very young age.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, she obviously was like,
yeah.
Whatever, but we don't know if she was just raised by different people or whatnot, or how she developed it, or she just it just took on a natural thing. I mean, it doesn't matter. It does play a part in it because like locals and whatnot, it's just used to it, but it's not the whole thing. So I don't think that's a deciding factor.
Yeah, I mean the other theory that he talked about, and this is Matt Pat who did the theory himself. He does game theory, he does film theory, all that stuff. And one of the other theories that he brought up, because the Leia and Han might not be true, probably isn't true. I don't know. The other possible theory, and this probably isn't true either. A lot of people, even before the 8th movie came out, they were speculating it could be true. Is that Obi-Wan was the father because of the accent and the. I feel like the pilot skills or whatever, or something like that. I mean, there are a lot of similarities that would cause Rey to be the daughter of Obi-Wan. But then again, you look at episode 7 and the theory of Luke and, a theory of Rey being, within the Skywalker family. You have, at the end of episode 7, you have Luke looking at her as if he recognized her, like as if he knew her, and then you have at the end of episode 7, or like after Han dies, you have instead of Leia going to Chewie, who she's known for years, she goes to Rey and embraces her motherly. I mean, it's just something that I never really thought about. Like, it's a lot of like speculation about that she could be the mother of Rey, but then again, it's probably not true, but it's also just a really interesting theory. And it is just a theory, but I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I mean, that's something that's something you'll be very, very surprised when you see 8. You'll be able to. Well, I'm not gonna say anything, but I will say that I'm really hoping to see what's gonna happen with Rey, and I'm just excited. I'm interested to see where they're gonna take that character. And this is not spoiling for 8 at all. I'm just saying that, like, I guess I'll say it for, having seen episode 7, I'm very interested to see it. Also, in the flashback scene, well, not really, but, like, the scene where Rey touches the Luke's lightsaber and gets in this flashback whatever thing, you hear Yoda, you hear Obi-Wan McGregor, and you hear Obi-Wan Alec Guinness. It's very interesting because I think they when they did the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, they were able to get like a little bit of his. I think the line "afraid," and they cut like the first and last part of that, and they got Rey out of that. I think that's what happened. I don't know exactly that was what happened, but the only thing that makes sense because I don't think he ever actually said Rey, but probably more like afraid and then cutting onto Rey. But still, I don't know.
During the dream sequence.
Yeah. In episode 7, yeah.
No, they literally had him say Rey. It was Ian McGregor.
I'm talking about Alec
He
Guinness.
voice work for Luke, for Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
He came over and did some voice work, and then they layered it over like a soundproof, and he actually said Rey.
So they made him sound like Alec Guinness.
They took Alec Guinness and they took like one of his lines, I forget which one, but they took his voice work from the film and whatnot. Then they morphed it together with Ian McGregor.
Oh wow!
So that was as Obi-Wan as you can possibly get.
I thought it was like the one I thought it was what I thought. I thought they just found a line. He said afraid and then wow.
Nope.
Huh.
Not at all.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
The whole thing, Rey, and the way that they do, because that's nothing before or after. They did take a snippet of his voice.
Yeah.
Of the original actor,
Alec Guinness.
They take a snippet of his voice, but they took the sound, like the way that his voice sounded.
Yeah.
And morphed that together and layered it with Ian McGregor.
Huh. That's really interesting. That's
Ian McGregor. You hear Ian McGregor's voice at the root of it.
Yeah.
But it is not all.
Wow. That's really cool. I mean, the technology we have nowadays, we can make anything happen, especially with movies. What did you like about the prequels?
I liked Natalie Portman's line where she said, "So this is how Liberty dies, with thunder's applause."
Oh yeah.
That's a good line.
So the lines, huh? Actually, Obi-Wan had a pretty good line. He had, "So uncivilized." He just throws the gun. I don't know. There's a lot of good lines out there. I think the most, and I think the one I will say this about like episode 2. And why everyone was so upset with the lines. And hear me out. There was a scene where Anakin and Padme are in the room after, I think it's shortly after the scene where Anakin accidentally kisses Padme, and everyone hates the dialogue they share for some reason. But then you have to think about it. They're in adolescence. They're just learning how to talk to each other. Like, they're learning how to show their feelings towards one another. So you can't hate that.
And Anakin stops, he says stupid shit, just like anybody else.
Yeah, pretty much.
Without real, because he...
I don't like songs.
No.
It's coarse and irritating and it gets everywhere.
Yeah, he says that probably because he's like, how do I talk to girls?
Although, I will say this about Anakin. There's a couple of reasons why Anakin and Padme's relationship in episode 2 was just weird and wrong, although it ended up pretty sweet in the end. So you have episode 1 where your little, 10, he must have been 10-year-old Anakin has a crush on 25-year-old Padme or whatever. And, it's really creepy. And then you get to episode 2 and they're the same age. and then there's a scene where they share where Padme's like, "Please stop looking at me like that," and Anakin's like, "I'm sorry, milady," and he's looking at her really with this creepy ass smile. I was like, I'll have to show you the video. It was this everything wrong with episode 2, and he's just doing this. He's like, "I'm sorry, milady," just it's terrifyingly creepy. It's like, yeah. That's the only thing I can say about that relationship that is wrong, is that I think it's cute they were together. But yeah, is there anything else that you have about the prequels that you enjoyed, anything good about them? Please nothing bad, because I don't like bad things, because that's not good.
I don't like songs.
Really?
I don't know.
You just,
songs.
You just like the cringeworthy dialogue, huh? I think that's all I really have to talk about with lore related. Unfortunately, I think this might have to be a 3-parter because we kind of lost bigdinoguy, and that was not my fault. It was just things happened, and I can't really control that, but it's gonna happen. But I'm willing to make this a 3-parter because why not? We don't really get to hold a lot of Star Wars stuff. But yeah, is that all you guys have to talk about with Star Wars, or? Alright, well, I actually think that's a good time to wrap up. Pretty short this week, but, you know, it doesn't have to be an hour. I don't think it's, that's the maximum I want to go. Like, an hour or maybe more than an hour. I don't like to make it too long. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's a good time to wrap up. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of The Madhouse. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, listening to this episode, please hit that like button, subscribe for more episodes of this podcast. Also, while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to Chakky and Steve Kovoc. So the channels will be in the description if you want to check them out. We will be back next time with another episode. Alright, bye-bye.